Have you ever noticed that some of the newest self-improvement advice sounds strangely familiar? Walk more. Cook at home. Spend time with family. Get enough sleep. Save money. Repair things. Instead of throwing things away. Practice gratitude. Be patient. Millions of people spend hours listening to podcasts, reading best-selling books, and watching. Experts explain habits that many grandparents simply called common sense. Of course, not everything people believed 50 or 100 years ago was correct. Medicine has advanced enormously. Nutrition science has corrected many misconceptions. Technology has made life safer, healthier, and more convenient in countless ways. But something fascinating has happened over the last few decades. Researchers studying healthy aging, psychology, sociology, and human behavior keep finding that many ordinary habits practiced by previous generations weren't just traditions. Many were surprisingly effective strategies for living longer, staying healthier, managing stress, building stronger relationships, and finding satisfaction in everyday life. Our grandparents didn't have smartphones reminding them to meditate. They often didn't own fitness trackers. Many never read a psychology book. Yet they developed routines through experience, observation, necessity, discipline, and generations of trial and error. Today, modern science is catching up with many of those lessons. Not because old ways were magically perfect, but because some timeless principles work. Regardless of the century. In this video, we'll explore 50 life lessons that previous generations lived by, examine what modern research says about each one, and discover which ideas still deserve a place in our lives, and which ones have been improved by modern knowledge. Some of these lessons may surprise you. Some may remind you of someone you loved. And one or two might completely change the way you look at your everyday routine. Let's begin. The first lesson is one that almost every grandparent repeated in one form or another: keep moving. Many older generations rarely exercised in the modern sense. They didn't necessarily join gyms or count steps. Instead, movement was naturally woven into daily life. Walking to work, gardening, carrying groceries, fixing fences, cleaning homes, chopping wood, hanging laundry, or cycling into town kept their bodies active throughout the day. Today, researchers call this lifestyle activity, and study after study shows that regular movement throughout the day improves cardiovascular health, lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes, supports healthy aging, and even benefits mental health. Modern science adds one important update. Physical chores alone may not always provide enough intensity to maintain muscle strength as we age. Experts now recommend combining everyday movement with strength training and balance exercises. The old lesson remains true. Move often. Modern science simply helps us move even smarter. That naturally leads to another piece of wisdom: don't waste perfectly good food. Previous generations often grew up during difficult economic periods. Food represented hours of work. Throwing away leftovers wasn't simply expensive, it felt wrong. Today, reducing food waste benefits both household budgets and the environment. Planning meals, storing food correctly, and using leftovers creatively reduce unnecessary spending while decreasing environmental impact. However, modern food safety research reminds us not to eat spoiled food just to avoid waste. Learning safe storage practices is the modern companion to an old value. Closely connected to this is cooking at home. Many grandparents prepared most meals from basic ingredients because restaurants were occasional treats rather than daily conveniences. Research consistently finds that people who cook at home more frequently often consume more vegetables, fewer highly processed foods, and less added sugar and sodium. Home cooking doesn't automatically make every meal healthy. Deep-fried desserts made from scratch are still desserts. But preparing meals yourself gives you control over ingredients, portions, and nutrition. One fascinating psychological finding is that people who regularly cook often develop greater awareness of what they're eating, making healthier choices almost without realizing it. Another timeless lesson was to grow something, even if only a few herbs on a windowsill. Gardens once helped families survive. Today they offer something different. Studies suggest gardening increases physical activity, reduces stress, encourages vegetable consumption, and provides a strong sense of accomplishment. No one needs a large farm. A balcony tomato plant or a small herb garden can reconnect people with the process behind their food in ways supermarkets never can. Grandparents also believed in taking care of their tools. Whether it was sharpening knives, cleaning gardening equipment, or maintaining machinery, caring for possessions wasn't simply practical, it reflected responsibility. Modern behavioral scientists describe this as stewardship. People who maintain their belongings often develop habits of planning, mindfulness, and delayed gratification. Of course, today's technology sometimes becomes obsolete regardless of maintenance, but caring for what we own still reduces waste and saves money. Speaking of money, perhaps no lesson has returned more strongly than living below your means. Older generations often saved first and spent second because uncertainty was part of everyday life. Psychologists studying financial well-being repeatedly find that financial security depends less on income alone and more on spending habits, emergency savings, and avoiding unnecessary debt. This doesn't mean never borrowing money. Modern economics recognizes that mortgages, education loans, and business investments can be valuable tools when used responsibly. The lesson isn't to fear debt. It's to make debt serve your future instead of controlling it. That connects beautifully with patience. Many grandparents waited months or even years to buy major purchases. Modern psychology calls this delayed gratification. The famous marshmallow experiment became widely known because researchers observed that the ability to delay rewards often predicted positive life outcomes. Later research refined those conclusions, showing that environment and opportunity matter greatly too. The deeper lesson remains powerful. Learning to wait before making decisions often leads to better choices, whether shopping, investing, or responding emotionally. Another simple habit was fixing broken things. Repairing clothes, furniture, bicycles, or appliances wasn't trendy, it was necessary. Today, repairing instead of replacing reduces environmental impact while encouraging valuable, practical skills. Modern products aren't always designed for easy repair, and sometimes replacement truly is safer or more economical. Still, learning basic maintenance remains one of the most empowering life skills anyone can develop. Here's another surprise. Many grandparents unknowingly practiced what psychologists now call gratitude. They rarely kept gratitude journals. Instead, they appreciated simple pleasures because they had experienced scarcity. Research consistently shows that regularly noticing positive experiences improves emotional well-being, strengthens relationships, and reduces stress. Gratitude doesn't require pretending life is perfect. It simply trains the brain to notice what is already going well. Another lesson centered around sleep. Older generations often followed natural daylight more closely than modern society allows. Today's sleep scientists emphasize consistent sleep schedules, limiting late-night light exposure, and getting adequate rest. Modern knowledge has added important details about sleep disorders, sleep apnea, and shift work. But the basic advice remains remarkably similar. Protect your sleep. It influences nearly every system in your body. Fresh air was another favorite recommendation. Although simply breathing outdoor air isn't a cure for illness, spending time outside encourages movement, exposure to natural light, stress reduction, and opportunities for social interaction. Researchers studying nature exposure continue finding associations between green spaces and improved mental health. Even 20 or 30 minutes outdoors can make a meaningful difference for many people. Interestingly, older generations also valued sunshine, though modern science reminds us to balance sunlight exposure with skin protection. Perhaps no lesson has become more valuable in today's distracted world than giving people your full attention. Families often spent evenings together because there were fewer competing screens. Conversation became entertainment. Research consistently shows that meaningful social connections contribute to better mental health, resilience, and even longevity. Quality matters more than quantity. One honest conversation may matter more than hundreds of online interactions. Grandparents also taught children through example more than lectures. Modern psychology strongly supports observational learning. Children notice far more than adults realize. If they watch honesty, kindness, responsibility, curiosity, and emotional regulation modeled consistently, those behaviors become easier to adopt themselves. Of course, parenting science has evolved considerably. Harsh discipline once considered normal is no longer recommended. The enduring lesson isn't strictness. It's consistency between words and actions. Another lesson involved respecting neighbors. Communities once depended heavily upon mutual assistance. Today, researchers studying social capital continue finding that neighborhoods with stronger trust often experience better cooperation, greater resilience during emergencies, and improved well-being. You don't need to know everyone on your street personally, but small acts of kindness create stronger communities than we sometimes imagine. Older generations also believed that hard work builds character. Modern psychology offers an important nuance. Purposeful effort develops confidence and competence. Constant overwork leading to burnout does not. The healthiest approach combines dedication with adequate rest and recovery. Working hard remains valuable. Never resting is not. One overlooked lesson was planning ahead. Many grandparents prepared for winter, saved extra supplies, maintained emergency funds, and anticipated problems before they arrived. Modern behavioral economics supports this proactive mindset. Planning reduces stress because uncertainty becomes more manageable. Preparation isn't pessimism. It's confidence expressed through action. Curiosity also deserves a place among timeless virtues. Many older people remained lifelong learners even without formal education. They experimented with recipes, gardening techniques, craftsmanship, storytelling, music, or history. Neuroscientists increasingly recognize that continued learning supports cognitive health throughout life. You don't stop learning because you grow older. In many ways, you grow older better because you keep learning. Another beautiful lesson involved moderation. Grandparents often enjoyed desserts, celebrations, and comfort foods without making them everyday habits. Modern nutrition agrees that long-term dietary patterns matter far more than occasional treats. Perfection isn't required. Consistency is. They also understood something modern psychology strongly confirms. People need purpose. Whether raising families, caring for gardens, volunteering, building businesses, creating art, or helping neighbors, meaningful contribution supports emotional well-being across every stage of life. Retirement from employment doesn't require retirement from purpose. Older generations frequently reminded us that honesty matters. Research on trust repeatedly demonstrates that honesty strengthens relationships, reduces conflict, and builds reputations that create opportunities over time. Being truthful doesn't guarantee easy outcomes, but it creates stability that shortcuts rarely provide. Another lesson involved accepting that life includes hardship. Many grandparents experienced wars, economic depression, migration, illness, or loss. Resilience researchers now understand that adversity alone doesn't automatically make people stronger. Supportive relationships, hope, problem-solving skills, and opportunities for recovery make the difference. The valuable lesson isn't to ignore pain. It's to remember that difficult seasons eventually change. One practical habit involved keeping routines. Regular meal times, bedtime schedules, work hours, and household responsibilities provided structure. Behavioral scientists now know that consistent routines reduce decision fatigue while making healthy habits easier to maintain. Perhaps that's why so many successful people continue relying on simple daily routines rather than constant motivation. Grandparents also encouraged finishing what you started. Modern psychology suggests persistence predicts success in many areas of life. Still, today's understanding adds an important exception. Sometimes changing direction is wise when evidence shows a better path. Persistence should serve goals, not pride. Another timeless observation was that kindness costs little but often returns much. Acts of generosity improve not only recipients' well-being but also the emotional health of those giving. Researchers studying prosocial behavior repeatedly find that helping others increases life satisfaction and strengthens communities. One lesson many families shared involved eating together whenever possible. Regular family meals have been associated with improved communication, healthier eating habits, and stronger emotional connections. The conversation may matter as much as the food. Older generations also respected craftsmanship. Whether baking bread, sewing clothes, building furniture, or repairing engines, taking pride in quality mattered. Today's world often rewards speed. Yet quality work continues earning trust in every profession. Perhaps the greatest surprise is how many of these lessons reinforce one another. Walking supports health. Cooking supports nutrition. Gardening encourages movement. Saving money reduces stress. Strong families build resilience. Community creates belonging. Gratitude improves perspective. Sleep restores the body. Purpose fuels motivation. None of these habits works in isolation. Together they create a lifestyle. And that's something our grandparents understood remarkably well. Of course, we shouldn't romanticize the past. Previous generations also faced enormous challenges. Medical care was often less effective. Many people worked exhausting physical jobs. Opportunities were unequal. Mental health conditions frequently went untreated. Information traveled slowly. Life expectancy was lower in many places. The goal isn't to return to the past. It's to preserve what was valuable while embracing the enormous benefits of modern science and technology. Today's best life may actually combine both worlds. Use smartphones, but don't let them replace conversations. Use modern medicine, but still prioritize healthy habits. Buy new technology, but repair what still works. Enjoy convenience, but remember how satisfying it feels to create something yourself. Earn more, but spend thoughtfully. Stay connected online, but also know your neighbors. Exercise intentionally, but never underestimate a simple daily walk. Keep learning, but remain humble enough to learn from those who came before. As we arrive at the final lesson, perhaps it's the one that quietly connects every other piece of wisdom. Life isn't built by dramatic moments. It's built by ordinary days. Most grandparents understood that happiness rarely appears all at once. It grows from thousands of small decisions repeated over decades. Choosing patience instead of impulse. Saving instead of overspending. Cooking instead of ordering. Walking instead of sitting. Calling family instead of postponing. Fixing instead of replacing. Listening instead of rushing. Helping instead of ignoring. Being grateful instead of constantly chasing more. Science now gives us charts, statistics, brain scans, and decades of research. Our grandparents often had something simpler. Experience. Neither one is complete on its own. But together, they offer an extraordinary guide for living well. Technology will continue changing faster than anyone can predict. Artificial intelligence will reshape work. Medicine will continue advancing. Homes, transportation, and communication will evolve beyond anything previous generations imagined. Yet the foundations of a meaningful life may remain surprisingly familiar. Strong relationships, purposeful work, healthy habits, curiosity, integrity, resilience, kindness, gratitude. Those principles have survived generations because they speak to something deeply human. Maybe that's the greatest lesson our grandparents left behind. Not that the past was better, but that some truths are timeless. And perhaps the wisest thing we can do today is combine the very best of modern science with the enduring wisdom that quietly shaped generations before us. If we can do that, we won't simply live longer. We'll live better.